In today's episode, we are taking a deep dive into digital marketing for law firms. If you have questions about AdWords, social media advertising, email marketing, intake, we are going to cover it all. We're talking with Andrew Zihmer, someone who has built a 7-figure law firm and getting an 8 times return on his investment with Google AdWords.
Welcome to the Josh Gerben Show, because law school didn't teach business.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Josh Gerben Show. Today, we are joined by Andrew Zihmer of Zihmer Law Firm. They are a wills, trust, and estates firm based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Hey, Josh, thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, no, it's great. Andrew, you can give us a little bit of background about your law firm, but I just want to let our audience know that sort of two big things that I picked up in watching you on social media is that you say it's a 7-figure law firm where you are doing some Google Ads advertising that you're getting an 8 times return on. So I thought those were two pretty significant numbers from a small law firm to be able to generate those type of results.
Yeah, we really try to just see what other folks that are winning and doing well do and have taken some lessons and implement. And we've been really blessed to be in a position where, we've broke the $1 million mark. We've got advertising and marketing is working well. And we like to really tie into those business concepts and not try to be the little firm, actually say what do larger businesses do and what are just best business practices and do that.
Gotcha. And so your firm, I know it's your wife is the main partner. You are actually not a practicing attorney, if I'm correct. You are sort of the business machine behind the firm.
Yes, I'm everything but the attorney, and I'm definitely okay with that.
No, I hear you. And some days I wish that was me for sure. Are there any other attorneys in the firm besides your wife, or is it just her at the moment?
Yeah, we almost a year ago brought in an associate, Jeff, and he's been a wonderful addition to the team. He's been practicing in these same practice areas since he left law school. So he's brought a lot of just great other thoughts on, estate planning, probate, elder law. From doing that has expanded our reach into West Virginia and Ohio. That was really a great, to just bring him into our team.
No, that's great. That's great. So it's still a pretty small shop, all things considered, though, right?
Yeah.
So it's a couple of attorneys and any paralegals. I just always like to give sort of the background of the firm.
Yeah. So it's attorney, Tracy and Jeff from the attorney side. We have a paralegal, we have an office coordinator, an admin, myself, and then a couple of part-time VAs, and that's it. And so when you think about what we do, we try to be lean, mean, streamlined, highly automated, and get kind of more done with this size team than maybe sometimes people would think possible. And that's really just a testament to taking complex concepts and ideas and planning and reducing it down to something that the kind of the lowest capable person would be able to do on our team. And that's really the mantra and goal of our team. We don't have attorneys draft. We don't have anybody do anything but unless it's the only person that could. Our attorneys give advice. They guide and design plans, and they make the true recommendations. Everybody else kind of does whatever they can. We don't, we really break those barriers down of, there's a couple of things only an attorney can do, and we respect that and utilize it. But other than that, it's who else could learn it and step into that role. And that's, I think, where a lot of our success comes from.
So I think one of the most interesting ththings to me, Andrew, is that, I started my law firm on the back of a Google AdWords campaign. So but this is like circa 2008 when it was, it's funny because I learned Google AdWords in 2008. And I want to say a year or so ago, I went back in to think about re-engaging with that type of campaign just to see sort of what we could get out of it now, if you will. I was just way over my head. I mean, it was crazy. I'm curious, and I know we're not going to dive into how do you set up a Google AdWords campaign here today, but I know you have a lot of knowledge around this, and we'll get to that in a second about, I think you have a mastermind you do. You're even talking about potentially writing a book about this. But how, from a 30,000-foot point of view, what are some takeaways from Google AdWords these days that, and how have you gotten that to work for your firm?
Yeah, I'll be honest, we went with a large company that we worked with. We didn't see results, and I used my electrical engineering background and said, I can just solve a problem. It's a problem to be solved. And I jumped in. That was around 2019 and just consumed everything I could. And people go, is it easy? No, it took a lot of efforts to learn it. But over time, you realize how many people trust Google and a search engine for advice and for that connection. And local SEO and the organic component is a piece, but so is paid search. And we had way back then, we had been doing well with organic search. We were getting some revenue to come in. It wasn't crazy, but for back then it was, $10, $20, $30,000. And we went, well, if Google is letting us do that on the free end, how does the paid world work? Because that's how Google actually maintains their business. And we kind of went, let's try, and started building out, learning, and got some quick wins and went, okay, let's reinvest, put more in. Let me put more time in. And for a couple of years, that was pretty much my full-time job, was just understanding how to use the AdWords inside the estate planning and probate space and building it all out, and which types of campaigns and using clicks versus conversions and all these little details. They really change how that algorithm either works for you or against you. And we learned a ton, and that was where we were able to, we really averaged like an 8x return. There's times we have a 10 or 12x, which is just, for me, silly good.
In today's world, that's insane.
Like a 6 or 7.
Yeah. Because I could tell you, like, I literally lit a bunch of money on fire when I went back in there and tried to do it on my own, and we did not get a 1x return. So it is very possible, and I always warn people about this with AdWords. I'm like, look, I know it's powerful because I started a law firm from a full stop, like 0 clients, to where I am today, and it really got it off the ground. But I also know that it's very easy to go in there and just do something, and it doesn't. And you, like you said, you can just throw your money out the window. It's crazy how they'll take your money gladly, And so,
100%.
Right. Did you find that and I also have had the experience, by the way, that I've hired a larger marketing agency thinking, okay, this, we'll pay this big amount of money for these really smart people to come in here and help us. And it doesn't work, right? And they have no clue what they're doing, or especially around maybe your local law firm, or, you're in the legal space even. And you're just not getting, by the time you pay them and pay Google, it's like, you're not making any money. That was your experience pretty much?
We absolutely lived that. And went, this doesn't work at all, but we kept going back to, but I see how it does. I go to Google for so many answers throughout the day. And that's the big difference between Google marketing and advertising versus like Facebook, or what Meta does is, in Meta, I'm trying to just get in front of people from a demographic perspective and hope that they're interested. Right? There's no indicator that somebody actually wants anything that any of us do. Google, they actually went in and typed in words saying, I am interested about this. Right. I want to go buy this or learn more. And you get to play off that intentionality. And that's the different ball game that I think sometimes people go, just easier, it's cheaper, I'm paying cost per impression in Facebook. Well, there's a reason you're doing it. I kind of call it's a shotgun approach versus, the rifle approach. That's the difference between the platforms.
No, I think that's a great point, because I was going to ask you about what other marketing channels you use. Do you still do some social media paid advertising? You do?
Yeah, we definitely do. I like it from just an awareness, a way to get in front of people. You can do the retargeting, which doesn't work as well now with some of the iOS changes and things that came out the past couple of years, but you can still target people. And you can then do what are called lookalike audiences. And so as you have a group of people, you can then say, hey, Facebook, who else is like this that I don't even know about? And then they can show the ads to people to say, kind of based on all of this criteria and all the little, what they like and comment and engage, I can get people then that would likely, be a good fit. And that's all the wonders of AI and machine learning to then say, let's get in front of those people, because otherwise you're never going to find them. Right. That's what's really cool about the Meta advertising.
Do you keep a similar statistic like you do from the Google AdWords thing on Meta? Like, do you have like a 2 times return on that, a 4 times return, or do you not have the same data available?
I don't. We've been dabbling, so I don't spend anywhere near. We spend about $75,000 plus a year in Google Ads. Over there, we spend $500 a month, and so it's just a different place. We kind of play with it to have a little bit of fun. It's funny you brought it up. That's actually a huge initiative that we're looking to kick off April 1 for kind of 2024 is going to be really dialing in, because I find it to be untapped for our law firm.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what you find. I mean, I've also dabbled in that paid advertising on social and found, again, we got nothing out of it. But I mean, to your point, we did not give it probably an earnest enough try. We probably invested $5,000 in a campaign, saw nothing from it, and thought, well, we don't really know what we're doing here. Let's move on. We don't want to, we don't light any more money on fire, so to speak. I agree with you, though. I think that there's still as much talk as there is about all these other, places to try to reach customers online. The fact that someone goes into Google, especially if they're in your local area, right? So they're in the Pittsburgh area, wherever you can target, and they're looking for, how do I create a will, or I need a trust attorney, or whatever it is. I mean, how much better could that be to be able to place an ad in front of that type of individual, right? And so, do you find, and again, I'm not trying to give away all the secret sauce here, so to speak, Andrew, but do you find that there's some types of keywords that perform better for you? Because I like to give the audience a few tips. Like, if you're going to go in and think about what keywords you're going to target, I have thought over the years about, there's sort of informational keywords, and then there's the attorney keywords, right? So if someone's coming in and says, I want a wills attorney, well, that's probably a better lead than someone is like, how do I draft a will? Because they might be looking to do it on their own, right? Do you have that type of thought process through the keyword selection?
Yes. And I'm constantly going through the keywords and what's actually being searched and the actual terms that are searching. And we're always looking at that and changing. We'll actually steer them to different landing pages because it's where you are in the funnel. The higher the funnel, the less ready to buy. That's more of the what is probate?
Right.
That doesn't mean I'm ready to do anything. I'm just curious about it. And I'd happily give them an ebook or to get them into a free informational session and leave it at that. But when somebody comes down to, Mom died, what do we do next? We can help there. Or, I need a will, or, attorneys that do trusts near me. They're looking for the right fit. Right. That's different than what is a trust. I'm just learning at that point. And so that's that heightened funnel. And then we give them a different kind of emotional story on the landing page. We give them different calls to action. We have different ways for them to start kind of talking with the law firm at that point.
That's amazing. And that just goes for our audience, that just really shows a lot of sophistication in what Andrew's doing. This is much beyond just, hey, I'm going to put a keyword up there and get people to my website. There's thought process that goes into where you're going on his website, what type of information you're going to get, then how that I'm sure, you other opt-ins you may have along the way if people want to get more information and then ultimately might become a paying customer. Do you, when you look at these keywords and you go after the different levels, so to speak, of where they are in the funnel, do you keep track of those different levels of the funnel and how well they end up converting?
Yes. Now you have to look at it over time, and that's where you have to be committed to doing this for a while, because if it's a what is probate and they get the ebook and then they hit our email sequence and then they go into a long-term drip, this is somebody who might come in 6 or 12 months.
Right.
And so you have to be able to look at that over time to see how does that work. But what we find is that once we get them on an email list, there's just a percentage of people that will come into the law firm over time.
Interesting.
And so building that email list and then old school kind of email marketing really works well. And so it's layering these marketing approaches of Google Ads gets people in and we get dollars right now because of it. It also lets me get an email and have a conversation later with somebody where now I can push them to email marketing, or now I can push them back into retargeting on social media because I tracked what they did. And you start realizing Google Ads maybe brought them in the first time. Facebook's what got them to come in later, or an email drip campaign. That's the cross-channel marketing that's really hard to track, but it all plays a part. And if you start shutting things off, I turn off the Google Ads because the Facebook ads, I can see that's what's bringing them in. I may never keep that bucket full if I don't have the Google Ads. And that's what's challenging in the marketing world.
That is what you were describing, is how every law firm probably needs an Andrew or needs a full-time person doing this, right? Because can you imagine trying to practice law and figuring this all out and putting this all together and keeping this? I mean, because there's maintenance too. It's not like you just, the one crazy thing about you can't just set it and forget it. It's always changing under your feet every single day. So if you're not working on it every single day and looking at what the search terms are, looking at how everything's working together, that's an amazing level of sophistication, Andrew. And even just the thought process of, hey, like you said, like we're going to get people into email marketing, because I personally think email marketing is the most overlooked. It's amazing, to me, because I built a little bit of a following on Twitter, or now X, and that platform's changed so much, obviously, since Elon took it over, and we get a lot less from it, so to speak, if you will, from that audience we built. So there goes, what is it, maybe 11 or 12,000 people that I had access to pretty well that now it's pretty restricted because of just the way the algorithm works. And, on LinkedIn, it's the same thing. I may have 17,000 people in my network at this point, but a post may reach 1,000 people or 2,000 people.
Yes.
So now, granted, email, people get a lot of email and there's a lot of traffic. You're fighting the inbox crowding, but you have that direct access to somebody. And as I'm sure we all know, if you see the same people emailing you over and over again, at some point you're going to open one of those emails in all likelihood, right? And so, especially if you're like, oh man, I really need to get that will done, or I really need to get that, trust established for my kid or whatever. And you finally get that day where the email hits you on the right day, and then you just make the call, right? So
it's just kind of this numbers game of playing it that way. But back to what you said, it's just about getting kind of the eyeballs on a platform. When people go like, why does email work? It's because it's a direct access, but that's very similar to I have followers on a social platform and I can speak directly to them. I think the next one's going to be SMS marketing. I mean, it already is, but text now is a bit more of if I get the text right now, I'm going to be looking at it, very quickly, where email kind of bogs up, especially I think there's an age, and I don't know where it is, but kind of an over-under on, we'll say 60. I think my parents get less emails per day than I get. So it's more likely to get lost in my inbox than theirs. So you can leverage that on the email marketing, where if you text me or DM me, marketing that way, much more likely to get my attention for a response because I like to handle those things.
Yeah, no, I think the text marketing is extremely interesting. I do think you need a little, arguably probably the same opt-ins in a way from text and email.
Yes, we need permission.
Right, get permission. Yeah, and it's interesting because I'm also a lot less likely to give my real phone number out to people because I don't want to get bombarded with text. But yeah, I think if you could get the permission to do text marketing, I think it's really interesting. I don't know if you follow him, but Gary Vaynerchuk, he's just, he's one of these guys I've been following for a while, and obviously not in the legal space, but just between social and other types of marketing, I think he really has his finger on the pulse. And he was big into text, or is big into text marketing, and I even signed up for his. He's the one person I gave permission to because I want to see what he's doing. And it is pretty interesting. You get a text from him. He's not over crazy with it, but you get a text every once in a while about something he's up to or something that's big that he wants you to look at. And it's much more, it's much easier to reach me that way than if he posted on LinkedIn, which I don't even see all his posts on LinkedIn, right? I would just from an algorithm perspective. So I think when you drill down into the fact you're starting with Google Ads, you're starting with social, and then you're getting data where you can actually reach out to people directly and go back at them. That's because they might not need you now. They might not even have the money to pay you to hire you now, but maybe in a couple of years they will. And it's you're just over time, that compounding list that you're going to have is probably going to be an extremely valuable asset for your firm.
Yeah, and things can change. I'm big on Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels, and one of the big things he talks about is all of these channels, Google Ads, Facebook Ads. I'm paying for a level of access, and it works. But if they change the algorithm, or for some reason they ban you, or something happens, you're out of that. You're off that playground entirely. Your email list is now your curated list, and that tends to be your followers and your email lists. And so it's once you can get them that way and we can have a conversation, they've given permission for that and say, yeah, I will talk to you, and I can email them. That's a different element of game to play where you are in the driver's seat versus, hey, let me pay you and play by all of your rules.
Yeah, no, I think that's fascinating. So I'm always curious, you've obviously got a really good handle on and a really sophisticated handle on the digital marketing side of things. Outside of that world, are you doing anything else for marketing for the law firm?
That's really it. We do the email marketing. We get back in front of past clients, people in our funnels. We do the Google ads. We do Facebook ads. From that, then that's it. We don't do anything. We don't do billboards. We don't do radio. Right. And I know people who do. Yeah. It's one of those things where you go, I'm aware that it's out there, and we kind of always go, is it the next thing to look at? And sometimes you have to pick and choose. As much as it's my job to be in this world, there's still only one of me, and it's kind of what are the resources? And then I do spend a lot of my day in sales, and that can sometimes be a taboo word to attorneys, but, for trying to get the exchange of dollars for service, I call it sales. Yeah. And so that's a lot of my day is that too, and looking at how can the marketing and advertising work really well in harmony with sales to make the sales process easier. Because when you have great marketing, these people are coming in pretty darn closed already.
Yep. Oh, you're 100% right. That was the one unlock for us, is that we did a lot of videos about explaining trademarks and explaining our process around the trademark filing and registration. And it was amazing when we had when somebody would walk through the videos, they would call us and say, I've seen everything. I'm ready to hire you. I just have one question. And it was like 10 minutes and okay, let's get going. And it was because all that work you had done and all that information you put out there, it just downloaded into the individual and they were ready to rock and roll. They just wanted to make sure and talk to somebody for a few minutes, as opposed to in the early days, someone calls me and they got a list of 20 questions and I got to go through each question with them. And it's not that I don't want to, but like you said, there's only one of you. And if I took an hour with somebody to sign them up, first off, there's no guarantee they're even going to sign up. And second off, there's only, how many hours in a day, how many consults can I do it? Let alone I'm the lawyer, so I got to do all the legal work too. So I think you're absolutely right that the more educated and more ready somebody can be when they're actually talking to you, it's amazing what a difference that makes from a sales perspective. Because you're not, they already, if you have your social proof done, they already trust you. If you have all the information and a lot of their questions already answered in videos or other ways you're doing it, emails, whatever, you're not dealing with all these sort of mundane questions that could have been answered, if they had gone through and looked at a few things. So I think that's a great point. And the more sophisticated that people can get in that process, oh my God, it makes your sales process so much easier. Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying today's episode of The Josh Gerben Show. This show is brought to you by none other than Gerben IP. Gerben IP is a trademark, copyright, and patent firm based out of Washington, D.C. We've been in business for more than 16 years and work with clients from all over the United States and the world. If you are a U.S.-based attorney, please know that we do accept referrals from attorneys and pay a 20% referral fee for the lifetime of a client that you refer to us. We work really well with firms that don't do IP work, but need to plug in someone that does for their clients, especially someone that's not going to do the other work that you're already doing. So if you need somebody to refer your IP work to, please feel free to reach out to me. My email address is jgerben@gerbenlawfirm.com. Drop me a note. I'll be happy to schedule an appointment with you, talk about our referral program, talk about what we can do for your clients. Thanks again so much for listening. Now back to the show.
Yeah, there are times that it's like, oh, that was a real sale, real close. Right. That took some effort. But there's a lot that you go, anybody could have done it. I kind of call it taking an order. It's like the waiter or waitress coming up to the table going, what do you want to eat? They didn't talk you into eating. You already came in, wanted to do it. It was just, what do you want?
Oh my God. And
the way I take a lot of those too.
Yeah. I was, it's so funny. I literally said to somebody internally a month ago, I was like, this has been a great week. I feel like an order taker because everyone's just emailing me. I need a trademark on this, Josh. I need that trademark done. I need to do this. And I'm like, sure. Got it. We're moving forward. It's not like, hey, I got a million questions about whether I'm not going to hire you to do this. It was just, I need this done. Help me, and go, and it's like that type of order taking. That's when you've hit the right place. And if you're not getting there, this is a good time to think about how do I get more information, better marketing out there to my prospective clients or even my existing clients and just have them, call me with what they want to get done and not, all the normal lead up to who are you? How do I trust you? What are you going to do for me type of things, which are very legitimate questions, but very time consuming to answer.
And like you said, you can kind of automate so much of that with videos and like other content and platforms where when you're working one to many to get them ready, then when we go on a one-to-one call to say like, do you want to do this? What are those fine points? It can be quick and be a 10-minute call instead of an hour and a half of, I hope so. It could be a 10-minute. I have a 90% chance of this going well.
Yeah. No, it's so interesting. So one of the things I'm thinking about as I'm talking to you and listening to you is there's a lot of similarities between how you've set up your practice and are taking in new clients and building it and how I did it. The difference is that a trademark practice is national, right? So I'm not limited by geography. I can literally go in any place to do. You're limited more by geography. You've been so successful in a very limited space, right? I mean, you literally have not. I mean, you're in a small. I mean, I would argue. I mean, Pittsburgh's not so small, but it's arguably a smallish market. There's so much more that you could potentially do. How do you think about growth at this point? Now that you have this proof of concept, you clearly know what you're doing from a digital perspective. how does a firm grow, or do you even want to grow beyond where you are today?
Yeah. So our real goals are to be a large regional firm, if not nationwide, over the next 10 to 15 years by plugging this model in kind of each geographic area we can pop into. So two pieces on that. One is the last big piece is Tracy and I are really working, spending a lot of time now in really further into leadership and giving up more control and building that team so that we can kind of run decentralized pods all over the place where we don't have to be that involved. That's the big piece, because before I can have kind of 5 of this, 10 of these, that has to be ready to go. The other piece that is the data analytics. So fun, quick tie into that. We started talking about this about 2 years ago. I had a friend who was getting a master's in like big data. And we were talking, and she had to do like a capstone project. And I was talking to her about some of these ideas. And she went, if you can strip out data and get me a lot of data about kind of like what's working, what's not, let me see if I can find across the U.S. the places that you're likely to do well in. So we were able to give her a bunch of data.
Right.
She ran it against she built an algorithm for us, and then was able to say, these are the contiguous zip codes that touch in different metropolitan areas across the U.S. that have all of the details that you can't find, you can't understand them, that would say this is going to be likely to where you're at. These are where you should go target. She was able to give us a top 100 cities, towns to go target them with Google ads, Facebook ads. Like, that's the game we're playing. We're not doing the like, well, I hope I just like to move across town. We're taking the same approach that a larger company does, because that's what works. Like, why wouldn't we leverage what a Fortune 500 company does? Let's leverage it here. It's cheap enough. You can do those things.
No, that's super interesting. And I mean, this is something that I have felt, because, I have been, so our process at my firm works the following way. If we have a lead, I actually have a paralegal who happens, I know it's you and your wife, so it's family, and that's interesting. My brother has been our lead paralegal since 2008, since I opened my doors. And the reason it's worked so well is not because he had any kind of legal background. He's actually in the entertainment world. In his I call it side gig, actually soon to become full-time gig. He's an actor, writer, producer, all these things.
Good for him.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. He actually has a show that he just sold with a group of guys he's working with to Netflix. And so I might not have him for much longer because it's going to air in May. And if it gets a second season, he's kind of done with the trademark stuff. But
dang.
Yeah. So, but the interesting thing has been that he has been our lead sort of sales guy for the last 16 years, right? So we both grew up in my dad's automotive repair business. We both sold tires. We both sold brakes. We both sold auto. We became sort of salesmen, and so it's great to put him on the phone with a prospective client. Not that he can talk about any of the legal stuff, but he can answer all the basic questions, right? And he can make people feel comfortable about who we are, and then say to me, "Hey, Josh, you need to get on the phone with this person and explain this to them, whatever the issue is, and then they'll sign up, no problem." Or he'll say, "Hey, this guy called and he spent 20, 30 minutes basically asking me the same question over and over again. I don't think he's a good match for us. Let's send him an email with some information and kind of, if he's persistent, maybe we'll talk to him again." But it's a really good sort of filter for us as to who makes sense to talk to from an attorney perspective, who's really a good potential client for our firm, because we have a good profile of who we want to work with anymore. And the challenge is scaling that, right? Because I obviously have a very large inherent trust in my brother. He's my brother after all, and he has the best interest of the firm in mind. It has his last name on it. And I worry about, and I have worried about, how I would scale this process should we develop a way of, increasing our leads, right? And not only that, but when we get a warm enough lead that an attorney needs to actually close the deal, which is in our firm most case how it has to happen, we don't have those natural salespeople here, that are attorneys. It's really just typically me and my partner, Eric. And if we grow to a certain point, like, we're kind of tapped out, like we're butting up against our capacity almost every day. How do you look at that as far as, if you're going to grow and add all these pods? Do you think that you'll be able to find the next Andrew and the next, all the people you need, or is that something you worry about?
No, I do feel that we can. And the reason is because I think our secret sauce, a lot of our success is truly from taking wildly complex and truly the hard parts, whether it's in the law, whether it's on the business side, and reducing it down to something much simpler where I can make it repeatable and I can get the person the repetition and find a good person who wants to do well and get them in the right seat and compensate them for it, but let them go, you're going to get to do this hundreds of times, thousands of times, and do that. We have really moved away from one-off anything. Like, even if it's like, if a client comes in and goes, I'm worth $45 million and I need just the most unique hand-holding ever, it's just not a fit for us anymore.
Right.
Where we do the things we do over and over, and that's from the sales script to the way we run our design meetings to the documents we prepare. And we have found that by being repeatable, we're not trying to make a one-off car, right? We want to make the mass-produced car that people go, it's kind of the best of both worlds. I kind of call us like we're Mercedes or BMW. Like, it's not, I don't know, that the hand-builtness of Ferrari or Rolls-Royce. We also don't want to be Honda. Like, I want it to be a premium product that I can knock out, have really great margins on, because behind the scenes, it's really easy for us to do everything. And so from sales, it's, what's the script? What are the questions? How do we run through it? How do I get the next person trained on it? And realizing they don't have to be an attorney or paralegal. It needs to just be a person who's comfortable speaking with other people, can make them feel good, make them feel welcome, understands what they can and can't say, and ultimately wants to get them in. At that point, that's no different. Most of us are in a sales role. It's just pulling a salesperson in.
That's interesting. And I think what you alluded to there is something that I think a lot of law firm owners should really focus on, which is, what is your ideal client, right? Because every firm's a little different. For example, you're talking about saying, hey, we would rather be a mass market product than handle a high net worth individual, because to handle a high net worth individual, there's a lot of complicating factors that the mass market product's not going to be good for someone that has that kind of high net worth, right? And so that's okay. That doesn't mean that you have to be everything to everybody. And just like, as a matter of fact, in our firm, like, we used to try to get the young entrepreneur, the new entrepreneur, because we were not going to be competing with larger firms. But over time, now we compete with the larger firms for the bigger clients, because we would rather have a client that has trademark needs on a daily basis, basically, right? That they have all the, and they need enforcement letters, they need new trademark search, they need new trademarks registered, they need trademarks renewed, they have international stuff. Like, we want a company of that size. A small entrepreneur takes so much effort for us to get into our system, to get their initial work done, and get their one trademark filed, that we don't make money on that anymore, and we're just not set up to make money on that anymore, because it becomes so specialized and customized, to your point. So we know that, and we know that that's not our ideal client. So it's not that we don't take some people like that on because we think that they might grow their business and grow with us. But we also know that that's not where that's not the sandbox we want to play in all the time. Now, in your case, you would rather play in the sandbox where, you're not necessarily dealing with the higher, more complicated cases, because that's just not how you're set up. And I think that is perfectly good. And to your point, I mean, if you can take these pods and set up what you've set up in the Pittsburgh area, let's say, in 15 different cities, I mean, you're just going to have, you're going to be doing really well. And so, I think really thinking about who your ideal customer is, and then making sure you're not taking on a lot of the non-ideal customers, is key, because you could spend so much time on those people and they just don't return the rate of return that you need to run your business.
100%. I mean, we spend so much time talking about that avatar of who we're going after and what those different avatars are. And the other piece I like to tell, sometimes maybe more like earlier entrepreneurs, earlier attorneys, is you don't need to feel pressured into creating something that somebody else wants you to have. I talk to a lot of people and they go, well, like, I'm getting into estates and trusts, but I just don't know if I'm quite ready to open my doors or really open this up, because I don't know how to do planning for somebody in federal state tax. Mm-hmm. Just don't do it. Do you understand you can make a $2 million a year business doing powers of attorney if you did it right? Like, you don't have to do that to say you did it. If that's what your passion is, that's what you know, that's what you want to do. Great. But we crush it with an average client between like $1.5 and $6 million. We get some above it, we get some below, but like pretty much everybody, that's the bell curve for us. 2, 3, 4 million. That's everybody. Yeah. That's not billionaires. And we have no intention of working there because the volume of what we do. There is a firm out there who goes, if they would be less than 100 million, I can't even talk to them, because that's what they're built for. Yep. You go, I need to not feel pressure to be that firm. They shouldn't feel pressure to be our firm because there's kind of enough to go around.
Oh, abundance theory, for sure. I mean, if you think about how much is out there, you just need such a small slice of the pie to make your world go round. It's, you really, that is such a good way of looking at things. And I think that's really drilling down to who your desired client is such a big deal. I'm almost stuck on it because I keep thinking to myself that in the last 4 or 5 years in our firm, we've done a really big effort into not taking as much time with sort of the what I would call a client that is like a one-off trademark filing, because it was taking so much of my time and everybody else's time. And then by basically saying we're not going to do that much anymore, I'm spending time on these bigger accounts, and it's amazing how much better our profits have become and how much our revenue has grown because of I'm actually spending my time on things that's more leveraged. And it was just a huge unlock for me to do that. And because it was always hard for me to turn away business. I was sort of addicted to the idea of like, well, I'm not going to lose this client. Like I'm competitive, right? I'm like, yes, you're going to choose me because I'm the best. And it was like, doesn't matter who you are, right? But now I'm like, oh no, wait, you're not the right match for us. Like here, you don't. I'll tell people that I'm like, yeah, that's not a good match for us. Here's some ideas of maybe places that are, that you can go to. So, it's a really important thing to do and a very overlooked thing in my view.
And I've seen, I don't know if it's called the red car theory, but it's like, how many red cars do you see on the way to work today? It's like, I don't know. I didn't really count them. If I say, here's $100 for every one you see, how many do you see? You're looking for it. And I think we've done that same thing. Like when we move into, this is the avatar, we better define it. Somebody we might have worked with a couple times a year, all of a sudden it's like, that's the only person that feels like calls anymore. Well, I think we're listening to it. We're more in tune to how we can help. And you realize there's so many people everywhere. It's just find what works in your model and go for it.
I think that's great. Well, I have one more question for you, Andrew. That I want to talk a little bit about I'm calling it a mastermind, but you'll correct me if that you run. So this is something that's been on my mind lately, and I think it's on a lot of people's minds. Is we have AI that's coming out, and everybody's saying AI is going to change the practice of law. It's going to change a lot of things we do. We do see it in the trademark side already a little bit. I mean, there's definitely places that people are applying AI that. Right now, it's actually really helpful for us. It kind of takes some of the grunt work out of what we do in some days and in some places, although not a ton, but a little bit. I could see a place if AI got a lot better that some of the stuff we're charging for, we wouldn't necessarily charge for anymore. And it would become, things that would be, we would have to sort of change the model a little bit. How do you see AI? Do you see it as something that could really change things because you're trying to build a practice into the next 5 or 10 years into this sort of wave of AI? Are you taking any considerations there?
Yeah, but I find it to be exciting. It's what the internet did. It's what Google Ads did. It's what every step along the way, it was either a positive or a negative, depending on how you looked at it. There's so much upside to me on automation, offloading work that people really don't want to do, and it's hard to hire for. Yeah, I have a team of people that are really good at what they do, and they like the engaging work they have. They're not really dying to just do the basic data entry or kind of chew through these smaller details. And so that's great. Are these tools that can give you a compare or look for words and phrases based in, a will or a contract. You go, we're not just copy pasting looking for these 5 words. It's a concept. And with machine learning, it can actually do these things and go, that's great. It can give you a leg up. I think that people that really are kind of fear-based, going, this is going to take away my job, they're not looking at ways or trying to find ways to use it to augment their own skill sets. They're only looking at it from what's it going to take from me. I see it. Yes, you're going to take away things that I don't want to do and I don't want to pay people to do. How can I leverage that with my team and go do bigger things? I think the other thing on the AI world is most people tend to look at it as it's going to take away the things that we're aware of. I truly believe AI and ML is really going to do things that we haven't yet understood. If we go back 400 years, the concept of flying was very foreign, and then we build an airplane. Well, I think that's what this is. There's ideas that are foreign that we can't even conceptualize. That's what AI is really going to move into. And so just being open to hearing things and being at the conferences and learning from people to go, whoa, we always wondered about that. That would now be possible. That would be great. I would love to utilize it. The one I saw was this experiment where they took a Wi-Fi router basically in a house, and it bounced these radio signals right to the different cell phones and iPads. Well, that signal strength intensity going through walls and furniture and people it shifts. I bet it can see something that nobody could ever write software that said it could see. They stuck a camera on top and it could see. And then machine learning said, take what you see, take what those radio signals are and put them together. When they took the camera away, it could 3D map the room. Machine learning let that happen very easily, right. Where before that, that's not even, that would be a billion lines of code in one right. Where now that's an algorithm concept that can do it. And you go, oh, okay, so there's going to be things that are come out that we just don't even know about. I am excited for that.
That is a cool way of looking at it, and I think that's really it's really refreshing, and thank you for that, because I think with your background in engineering, that's it was a question I wanted to get to today. So thank you for fielding that. So as our listeners have heard, Andrew's got a wealth of knowledge on basically how to do anything that's digital marketing related to a law firm, and the power of that to building a small firm into a bigger firm is huge. So Andrew, tell us a little bit about the mastermind you're running and how people can find you and sign up for that.
Yeah. So Tracy and I created Vertex League a little over a year ago. It was just kind of always a passion of ours to speak with other attorneys, share some knowledge, go, I wish I would have known this 5 years ago, kind of a thing. Yeah. And all of a sudden realized maybe there would be some use in formalizing this and bringing a group. So now you fast forward and we've got a group of, I think it's 52 attorneys, all in estates and trusts, from brand new through about $2 million a year in revenue, where we come together weekly on just kind of educational topics. We mastermind, we solve problems together, and the core elements are marketing, systems, and leadership. And so it's kind of everything but the law. The assumption is either you know how to practice law or you're in a different group to learn those fine points. This is for everything about running an effective business. And we have a heck of a lot of fun. It's a great group. The walls come down. There's a lot of trust. There's a lot of, how do I handle this this person on my team, or how do I help develop this, or I need to let someone go. Has anybody ever been in this kind of position before? I'm looking to grow, or what kind of marketing, or how much money should I be spending? There's a lot of just really great resources, and it's a lot of fun. So I try to post a lot on social media. I mean, that's how we got connected.
Yeah.
LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. I just try to share my ideas and my take on running a business and just give people some food for thought. And so I always tell people, feel free to follow me. I try to make worthwhile content. I truly like to make it good. And if that's good, we can always have a conversation. If somebody's in the estates and trusts, and I'd say, trying to get to their first $1 million or $1.5 million or the first 500K, it's a great group because everybody's kind of done it or is helping work along that path. And it's a heck of an awesome group.
Yeah, and I will tell you, just even from being a non-wills trusted estates attorney, that Andrew's content is really helpful. I'm a trademark guy, and I just find that there's so much overlap. So even if you're not in that industry, give Andrew a follow on LinkedIn for sure. And it's Andrew Zihmer. It's Zihmer. Yes, that H. It was funny because I went in there and I was like,
it sneaks in.
It does sneak in. I was like, I know I'm connected to Andrew. And then I was like, oh, it's the H. And so, where could they find the mastermind, Andrew? What's a good website?
Yeah. So Vertex League. So vertexleague.com. And then I feel like we're always running some kind of offer or some kind of unique thing. I've got ebooks. So it's one of those, get connected. I'll point you to the right thing. We have a full membership and a limited membership too. So if people want to come in, we've got different price points. We really try to respect and understand that somebody could be going, I'm trying to get to my first 100,000 and really get moving. Or on the other end, it could be, I'm at $1.6 million trying to make some small tweaks to pick up another $250,000 in revenue by just fine tuning some things we already do well. We run that gamut.
No, that's great. And we'll put a bunch of links in the show notes here. So if anybody's missed any of that, certainly just check out the links below wherever you're watching this or listening to this, and we'll get you pointed to Andrew and get you connected. Andrew, I just want to thank you so much again for your time today. I thought it's been a really interesting conversation, and really look forward to maybe having you back and talking some more shop sometime.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. It's been a blast.
You bet. Take care. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed the show today. Just a reminder that this podcast is brought to you by Gerben IP. That is my law firm. Gerben IP provides trademark, copyright, and patent services. And if you have a client that you cannot service that has an intellectual property need, we offer a 20% referral fee for the lifetime of the client. So refer us a client for a single trademark, and as that client develops over the years and needs more trademark filings and even some enforcement or litigation, we pay that 20% referral fee. Please feel free to drop me an email with any questions to jgerben@gerbenlawfirm.com. That's jgerben@gerbenlawfirm.com. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review or just click that 5-star rating. It helps others find the podcast. If you just take a second and click that button for us, we would greatly appreciate it. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.